All right, it looks like we are live. Welcome to the very first session of Project Manager Lifeline. This is a special anonymous tweet-in style discussion that happens every week at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. That's 4 p.m. Eastern Time every weekday. Every Wednesday. And I wanted to start this group because I felt like there were a lot of opportunities online for project managers to talk about best practices and kind of what the industry is doing. And I felt like even though that's good, that we're missing a key area to help our project managers in our profession, and that is helping to adapt best practices to real world scenarios. And especially when we get into the areas of stakeholder management, personalities and people and leadership, being able to talk about in a respectful but a helpful, constructive way about how project managers can improve themselves, can relate better and collaborate more effectively with the stakeholders on their projects, that is an area that we don't seem to be discussing as much. And especially since PMI has introduced the talent triangle within recent years, leadership is a key focus, and part of leadership is people management and engaging people in a way that's collaborative and positive. So Project Manager Lifeline is just that. You're a project manager, you need a lifeline. Something is going on, and you need to get ideas from somebody else that you can take back to your own situation and kind of see things with a fresh perspective. Get some insights about how you can engage that person or to smooth over that relationship, or how you can get that project through some of these difficult people obstacles. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share kind of some of the ground rules for participating in Project Manager Lifeline. And also we have some content that I'm going to share with you today that I hope you'll find valuable about political landscape management for project managers. So let me go ahead and share my screen so you can see what I'm seeing. Here we go. Share. Good. That's right. Okay. All right. Project Manager Lifeline, session 1. So a couple things. There's this really famous quote by Peter Drucker: "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And a lot of times, as project managers, we get really focused on process and standardization, and we try to implement those processes in our local business culture, and we find it very difficult because the culture is resistant, or the culture is immature. And unfortunately, what can happen a lot of the time is that we just say, hey, I couldn't implement project management, the culture was too adverse. And so culture kind of becomes the scapegoat. We say, no, let's not think that way anymore. Let's think about how can we, as project management leaders, influence the culture and even measure and improve the culture over time, so that we can massage the culture, change it, apply it into becoming something that's more amenable, something more conducive to more mature processes that can help the business succeed. So let's keep that in mind. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Some ground rules. You can submit questions in advance or even in real time on Twitter if you tweet to @SwattagePM. That is my Twitter handle. You can tweet to me there. And it would be great if you can tweet in advance questions or concerns that you have. If you do, then I may even be able to arrange for you to join the Hangout so that we can actually have a conversation in real time. If you tweet during the program, then we can just respond and speak to the questions that you tweet. Number 2, no last names or company names. So anonymity is key. I don't want to have, and I think this is part of the reason why we sometimes shy away from discussing these real world scenarios. We don't want to have people come on to Project Manager Lifeline and then just come and bash about their company or about their boss. We don't even want to know where you work. And the reason why we don't want to know is because we don't want people watching to get distracted from the main purpose of this broadcast, and that is to help project managers with their real world issues. If you reveal your company name, for example, then whatever problems that you're trying to solve can easily become kind of a stain on the reputation of that company, and that's not what we want. We want to focus on the here and now and what you can do to move forward. We do not want to put a bad brand on any particular company. We understand that a lot of the situations that you're dealing with can be very difficult, and that sometimes you have stakeholders that are also very difficult. Those stakeholders are just one experience that you're having in this point in time, and they're not necessarily representative of the entire company or the entire culture of that business. Now, if you want to talk about actual broader cultural issues within your company, yes, that's fine. But again, we don't want to apply that to a stereotype about your company and then potentially dissuade people from seeking employment at that company, for example. No major PR issues here. We do not want to have a PR scandal. So again, number 3, remember the purpose, and that is to help project managers with their real world issues. And if you really are having a real world issue, I hope that you will not feel ashamed or embarrassed to tweet in or to arrange to join us, because you're not alone. There are project managers across the whole spectrum of personality and preference in different industries all over the world. And so no one project manager situation is absolutely unique. Yeah, there are a lot of shared experiences, in terms of stakeholder engagement and sponsor involvement, things like that. But we want to make sure that we're looking at you, the individual, and your perceptions of your environment, and also your environment's perceptions of you. So remember the purpose, help you, the project manager, with your real world issues. And the 4th rule, obviously, be respectful. We don't want to create a situation where people are discussing or fighting, or rather that they're discussing in a negative way the questions or the issues that any particular participant is having. So make sure that as you not only listen and comment and tweet, that you're doing it in a respectful way that's a constructive way to help other people grow. All right. Since this is our first episode and we don't have a lot of people joining us today necessarily, I'm going to share some content that I have shared in some trainings in the past, and it has to do with what we call political landscape management for project managers. So tell me if this resonates with you. You are the project manager, and someone comes to you and asks you, "So what do you do?" And you say, "Well, I manage the organizational politics around me to ensure project success for the good of the organization." And that person is so impressed they'd ask you, "Wow, how do you do that?" And again, tell me if you can relate to this. Well, managing projects in an enterprise can be a hassle. You have to herd cats, persuade all of the key players to show up and play. When you finally get everyone there, they vocally disagree on some points and silently disagree on others. Everyone has their own agenda, and often project managers put in so much work only to have it sabotaged by someone who is silently fighting against them. I solve that by mastering the players on each project, understanding their agendas, organizational influence, and relationships with each other to ensure the project succeeds. That's kind of a tall order, isn't it? That's a pretty amazing, pretty high expectation of any one project manager, but it's possible. And in fact, a lot of really successful project managers that really are effective leaders, they do this. When I was a very junior PM in the PMO at a company that I will not name, since the company names are against the rules here, personally, I was very ill prepared for the political dynamics that I was going to face, and I had so much pain around this issue that I thought, there's got to be a better way. Who can help me? What can I read? What can I listen to that can help me master the fluidity of the politics around me? And I stumbled across this book that I'll get to here in a moment. But so before I get to that book, I wanted to just kind of define what we're talking about here. Organizational politics. So what is it? When we talk about a political landscape management for project managers, we're talking about managing this thing that we call politics or organizational politics. And what this is it's socio-political complexity caused by people's position, power, agenda, relationships, and influence on others. So we're talking about a lot of the interpersonal dynamics of a project. So what's going on in the project environment. and how people are acting for or against your project. And how can we demystify that? And again, that was the problem I was facing. I felt like I was so, I was just not good at grasping who on my project was doing what to fight for me or against me. And I didn't really know how to engage the people that may have been fighting against me. And so I came across this book called Political Savvy by Joel R. DeLuca. It's subtitled Systematic Approaches to Leadership Behind the Scenes. Wonderful book. And I just want to shout from the rooftops, every project manager needs to add this book to their project management library, their personal library. Joel DeLuca was a professor at Wharton, and he taught there in the business school, and he wrote this book about how we can demystify the politics around us. Now, he didn't necessarily apply it to a project management setting. He's talking about promoting organizational change in general and getting corporate initiatives across the finish line. But that sounds really similar to project management already. We're taking some kind of an initiative and trying to get it across the finish line. I read the book and I was so impressed by it. I thought, I'm going to apply this to project management and spread the word about this and in a PM context. Unfortunately, Dr. DeLuca passed away in 2009. There is a foundation that continues to train according to his methodology and promote his legacy. And I actually have written permission to continue to use some of these materials in my own trainings. And so I'm going to share with you some of the contents of Political Savvy right now. The first thing is to understand that we actually have different political types, right? So, and DeLuca takes kind of two metrics. He takes, for example, how proactive we are at initiating action within the organization for or against the project. So there's like how proactive versus reactive we are, and then there's also how positive versus negative we are. So, and then he basically has a negative, neutral, and positive segment, and then he also has a proactive, so someone who initiates, someone who is more passive, someone who just predicts, and then someone who responds, so as in like reacting in a negative way. So if you kind of take these three dimensions, the proactivity versus the positivity, you come up with these 9 kind of subgroups. So we're going to start with the positive, because it's always good to start with positive things here. So let's look at the positive initiator. So this is this group over here in the upper right. This is the leader. This is the person who makes impactful plays to ensure project success, right? This is the project manager who is not afraid to initiate change behind the scenes. This is the person who is not afraid to understand what is the agenda of this person and how can I align my agenda to that person's agenda so that we can unblock some of our roadblocks. That's the leader, someone who has a positive view of politics and someone who initiates change within the political context. Then someone who simply predicts in a positive way, this is the advisor. So this is the person who counsels other people in need of advice. So they perceive politics as a generally positive thing. They understand that politics are part of life and then it's a good thing that we actually can operate behind the scenes to bring about change. But they're not necessarily ready to initiate that change. They want to just predict what's going to happen. So they're kind of just stepping back, and from the sidelines, they are advising other people on how they can better operate within the political landscape of that organization. So that's the advisor, the positive predictor. Then we have the positive responder. So this is the person who really is just kind of there to react to what's going on. And so this person we're calling the spectator. This is the person who encourages others and is your biggest fan. This is also the person, I like this, popcorn anyone? This is like the person who views the politics in a positive way, but is just so entertained by them, he just wants to watch what's going to happen. So that's when, you're going to have other people, they're going to have some kind of a political showdown, and he's just like, oh, I'm so there, what's going to happen? I'm so excited to find out. This is going to be good. All right. So that's the positive segment here, right? Let's move over to the neutral segment. Someone who is a neutral initiator. This person perceives politics in a neutral way. It's neither good nor bad. It's just kind of there. It's part of the territory. But this person still is ready to initiate. They're still ready to take action behind the scenes to move an initiative forward. So the neutral initiator, this person is responsible. To them, politics are just part of the business, and it comes with the territory, and you have to be ready to play the political game, good or bad. That's the responsible. Now, how about the speculator, the neutral predictor? This is the person who, again, doesn't see politics as good or bad, but that recognizes they're just part of the territory, but they're not ready to initiate or take action. They are just there to predict what's going to happen. So this is the person who's just like listening to the grapevine. Hey, what's going to happen next? What may come down the pipeline that I may need to know about in case it may impact me? That's the speculator. And then we have the neutral fatalist. This is the person who, again, perceives politics in a neutral way, but merely responds. So we call this person a fatalist because they're basically saying, hey, you know what? Que sera, sera. Whatever happens, it's going to happen. And that's just part of life and part of their attitude toward politics here. So that's the neutral responder, the fatalist. Whatever happens, happens. Negative. Okay, I'm actually going to work backwards on this one. Let's start with the cynic. We're going to leave the Machiavellian for last. The cynic is the person who perceives politics in a negative light, but responds kind of in a reactive way. So something bad happens politically, and they say, "I told you so." This is the person that really wants to gossip and spread kind of some of the muck of like, hey, did you hear about what happened? So-and-so got fired because of this and this and this. That's the negative responder, or the cynic. All right, moving up. The negative predictor, that's the protector. So this is the person who perceives politics in a negative way. And what that person is doing is they are building files to defend themselves against others. And I know you know someone like this. This is the person who keeps all of their emails on file in case they have to prove that a decision was made on this date. This is the person who basically tries to cover their hind end to make sure that that they are protected all the time. That's why we call them the protector. All right, last but definitely not least, this is the Machiavellian. So this is the person who perceives politics in a negative way and initiates in order to look out for himself or herself. So the negative initiator. I'm looking out for myself at the expense of others. So this is really kind of about half of these are really not that great, but the Machiavellian in particular is kind of the villain here. This is the person that we usually typify organizational politics with. So the person who is there looking out for themselves and really not necessarily looking out for the good of the organization. So this is the person that is actually going to make plays to get other people fired because they're their enemy, or that they're looking to have someone moved off of a project because it's not good for them, things like that. All right, so with all this in mind, we have the leader, the advisor, and the spectator. We have the responsible, the speculator, and the fatalist. And we also have the Machiavellian, the protector, and the cynic. Which of these do you think you are? And it doesn't have to be the same positive type all of the time. You might oscillate between one or more of these. You might be a leader on some projects, feeling confident in your ability to make impactful plays. But on other projects, you might feel more threatened. And so you might just kind of back off a little bit and be more of an advisor. So which of these are you? I'd like to invite you to think about that. And you're welcome to comment in the comments below this video, but also we'll pick this conversation up next time. From this point on, we'll talk about not only the political types, but then how do we work with these different types, and how can we also get a holistic view of who is a political player on your project, and how can you quantify that and work within that. So this is a very short first run at Project Manager Lifeline, but I hope you got some value out of it. Let me go ahead and turn off my screen. I'm going to turn off the gray. There we go. Hope this was of value to you. I really would be interested in hearing some of your political situations. What are you dealing with on your current projects? Where do you perhaps feel stuck? Who is the difficult stakeholder to work with, or who do you think might be consciously or unconsciously sabotaging your project? And tweet to me at Swattage at Swattage PM, and we'll pick up that conversation next week. That will be next Wednesday, the 19th of June at 2 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Eastern. And until then, go get them. Take care.